Welcome to the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. I'm Dr. April Moreno, autoimmune wellness researcher and professional helping women around the world to live their best possible lives despite the autoimmune condition. Listen in as we speak on various topics about the autoimmune journey and interview amazing and inspiring women who are living and thriving despite their autoimmune condition. Let's get started. Hello, Sisterhood. I hope everything is going fantastic for you in this 2020, beginning of the year, beginning of the decade. So now it looks like we're pretty much well into the beginning of the year. Not hearing too many Happy New Year greetings anymore. We're about halfway through the month of January and been so many changes as of January. And I love it over here. I started yoga. I took on a new membership at a new studio and went for it and got the discounted rate for the grand opening. It's like unlimited visits each month. And I got the monthly discounted rate. And so far, it's like the 19th right now. I've gone 11 times this year. So it's been great. I am part of the yoga cult now, I guess. I've drunk the Kool-Aid and I am addicted to going to yoga. It makes it so much easier because my yoga studio is at a really beautiful location where you can see the ocean on the way there and everything's new and clean and everyone's really friendly, and I just really love going there. I love the whole experience of driving out there, seeing the ocean views, and then saying hi to everybody there since they know me now because I'm there almost every day, and really enjoying my experience. And so I've been going to alternating with a workout yoga and then going to a restorative yoga, and it's just amazing. Of course, the first several days were actually really painful in terms of nerve and muscle aches, fatigue, but now it just feels like I'm so used to it now. I can't do the full range of exercises yet. Some of these classes are pretty tough, but I've gone to a few different types and I really enjoy it. So that's how the year has started out over here. It's just been a wonderful new chapter. I've also gone to a new co-working space, spending time over there doing some work. I get so much work done at the co-working space. I do a lot of work from home, but when I go over there, for whatever reason, it's very focused. And even though my service dog is with me, and he wants to play with the other dogs there, and it's kind of confusing for him because he really wants to be a dog and he really wants to play, but at the same time, I need to make sure he's working in the workspace. So gotta stick to that. With service dog, if you haven't listened to my episode about service dogs, I believe it's episode 21. I could be wrong. It's around there, episode 21 or so, where I talk about service dogs, and they have different modes. So they're dogs just like any other dog, but they're fully trained to do a task. And so it's kind of like an off and on switch. So you have to let the dog know in advance whether they're going to be able to relax and just be a dog or if they're going to be there to do work. And so I have to keep clear on that and make sure that he stays in work mode, even though, gosh, he doesn't have any siblings. So it just makes it so hard. He doesn't have his dog siblings. And so when he has an opportunity to play with other dogs, I get it. It's not easy for him to want to be by himself all the time. But anyways, he is a service dog and he's there to do a specific task to help me. So sticking to that. So yeah, dog mode and service dog mode. Just gotta let the dog know ahead of time which they're supposed to be doing when they go out. I'm excited to share this episode with you. This is part 3 of getting real with the new year. So we'll get started in a second, but also I just wanted to share that some really amazing things are in store for us this year, even just earlier this year, first quarter of this year, first half of this year. Amazing things are happening. You'll hear more about that in the coming weeks. Anywhere from now and 2 months from now, there will be some pretty cool news that I can share. A couple of months, I guess in a way it's kind of like a baby. So I'll be able to talk about that soon. Super excited. Then I'm working on a couple of workshops right now as well. If you're in the San Diego area, I'm going to be running 2 workshops. There's going to be a workshop on multicultural integrative wellness, and that's going to be happening next month, finalizing the details, so I can talk about that now. And the other workshop I'll be doing around Southern California is going to be on autoimmune mindful wellness. I'll be sharing a webinar on that in the group as well. For those who do not live in the Southern California area, I'll be doing a webinar on the topic as well on autoimmune mindful wellness in the coming weeks. So that's the great news over here. There's a lot of progress in terms of starting new things, getting the autoimmune community together, growing the Sisterhood of Limitless Living, making new friends this year, making new connections, getting serious about my mind-body wellness as well with yoga, getting into more shape. That since the steroids, you guys, since the diagnosis, I've just noticed distinctly, I used to not have the middle-aged body. I have the middle-aged body now. I go to a yoga class, I'm looking in the mirror, I'm like, oh my gosh, the arms, the belly, all of it has just widened just in the past few years. And I think the steroids have had a lot to do with it, and maybe probably my infusions, medications and things. Just going through that autoimmune journey has done a little bit of change to my physical appearance, and I'm going to be doing what I can to stick to my yoga activities, to get into that yoga body. I love the yoga body, the long, thinnish, I'll never be thin, thinnish body. Hearing very few injuries reported. Sometimes I know there's like balance issues, and sometimes I feel like I want to fall over every so often. I feel like I'm about to do a forward flip, and hopefully that does not ever happen. So there's just been a lot of great things happening in 2020. So far, so good. So far, so fantastic. Okay, here we go. We're in part 3 of the theme of hope and being real about the new year. This topic today is about getting support. It's about the real New Year talk, and it's about the theme of life design. So this one should be entitled Life Design. It's part 3 of this getting real about the New Year topic. So today we're going to be talking about some very important steps in terms of how we can continue to stay on path, on track with the vision for 2020, for the year, for the decade, for our lives. And basically, it's the plan of defense. It's the plan of staying on track, the plan on being proactive, the plan on how we can continue to move forward in our goals and in our life design. So life design, I'm thinking like big capital letters, life design, but then this year is a smaller version. It's one piece of our overall life design. And so 2020 is just one section of that. But today we're going to be talking about how we can continue to stay on path with the vision, because life is going to throw stuff at us. It just does, and it's all part of the journey. It makes things interesting, I guess. It's just a learning experience, and life wouldn't be life without it. The unknown, the unexpected, all the hardships and the trials and the journey and the experiences, the learning lessons. It's part of the journey. Ours includes chronic illness. Ours includes autoimmune or other types of chronic disease that we live with on a daily basis. So I'm running on caffeine right now. I don't know what's going to happen as I try to edit these episodes. But I'm running on caffeine right now, getting ready to go to my restorative yoga class, which is part of my 2020 plan. I signed up for a yoga membership at a new studio. So far, I've run into people that I know from my previous work at the university. And it's nice. I've been running into other doctors that I know, and this is so exciting to me. I was on my flight home from the Pacific Northwest recently, and on my flight was one of my friends who is also a doctor, medicine, and we happened to be on the same flight. I didn't know she was out there as well in the Pacific Northwest. That was awesome. And then the following day, I'm at yoga, I'm running into another doctor friend from my postdoc. That was exciting as well. So it just feels good. It's like, wow, I'm a doctor and I'm doctor friends. And that's just a new experience for me. Although my husband's a doctor too. We're research doctors. Today we're talking about the theme of life design, how we're going to continue this plan of defense, continue to be able to stick to the vision. Part 1, we talked about getting real about the new year. We talked about the fact that there are difficult challenges not a whole lot of people are talking about. There are people who just already broke up as the new year approaches. Their relationships just like fell apart. There are people who have been in the hospital throughout the entire holiday season. There are people who are going through traumatic mental health challenges as a result of whatever's going on, including the family drama. Family dramas of visiting over the holidays. It's not always easy. We talked about getting real about the new year. That was part 1 of this series. So we talked about making those small steps and what that means to be proactive along the autoimmune journey. And then this is part 3 of this series of basically hope for the new year and getting real about the new year. So part 3 here, we're talking about proactive living and life design. We did proactive in 2 as well. This one's more specific to life design. And I love this phrase, life design. I've got a couple of books I've shared in previous episodes, and I can share those with you again. We're going to be talking about some important questions that we can ask ourselves along this journey of living with purpose with our autoimmune chronic conditions, and how we can continue to live along this path of purpose and joy and being able to stick to the things that we envisioned for ourselves at the beginning of the year. And they can still be changed. What is it? The strategic plan, same kind of thing. These are living documents, the mission statement, the strategic plan, the different action steps, the goals. These things can be changed over time. So these are living documents, living principles. If something on your vision board or one of your core desired feelings, according to Daniel Laporte, or your resolutions doesn't quite make sense as the months evolve, as the months continue, the weeks continue of the year, you can change them, and that's fine. And it's all about life design. It's about being proactive. It's about continuing in your purpose to be able to take those steps and navigating things. Like right now, I'm envisioning a ship. I'm envisioning that you are the captain. I don't know if any of you watch that show. Is it Below Deck? I like a lot of reality shows. I watched this one where they're on the ship, on the little boat. They tend to be mostly like Australian or South African sometimes, and they spend time on these chartered ships. Anyways, maybe that's where this analogy is coming from, this image is coming from. So captains on our own ship. This is our life, right? The SS whoever, and how we're going to navigate our lives along this journey, this sea of life, and the rough waves, the beautiful days, the stormy days. How are we going to get through? I want to talk about some principles that I want to propose in our life design experience. Some of the major questions you can be asking yourself right now as we are getting real about this new year. We're already into like the 3rd week of January now with this episode. We are in this topic of hope. By now, you've probably had some successes with your goals for the year, and maybe some you've decided don't quite seem to make sense realistically, or maybe you've made some new resolutions for yourself. We're talking about life design today, and the first thing I wanted to share with you is some of my favorite books, I guess. I want to talk about those. So one of my favorite books here it is, I found it. It's called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. One of my most favorite books by Vishen Lakhiani. I did a whole episode of this book in a previous episode in 2019. We went through the whole thing, through the different chapters. Basically, one of his principles from the very beginning is to get rid of the rules. And this is something I want to talk about as one of our first steps here, is saying no to the rules. The B is BS, and then the rest is the rules. So the rules of life, things that people say can and cannot be done, it's often BS. He starts out with talking about, I think, like the Easter Bunny or something. But anyways, he talks a lot about the things that people said cannot be done. Okay, so in the case of anything, really, I mean, people said we could never run a mile in a certain number of minutes. People said that because I have an autoimmune condition, I can't get out of the house, that I can't do activities or hobbies. Back in the day, they used to tell people not to even get out of bed with an autoimmune condition. So anyways, he has the rule test here. And so this is on page 38 of his book, Vishen Lakhiani. Question 1 is this rule that someone told you, is it based on trust and hope in humanity? If no, ignore it. Does it violate the golden rule? Question 3, did I take it from a culture or religion? I guess he's saying culture is something worth considering. This is his book, something worth considering. Question 4, is it based on rational choice or contagion? And then finally, question 5, does it serve my happiness? So these are the questions that he wants you to think about in terms of like, what is realistic or not? So that's a great question. So first step in life design is to say no to the rules that the world has created, because oftentimes we're going to find that they're actually not true. Very often, the rules people said that we can and cannot do are very often not true. We have people in the autoimmune community who are running marathons, you guys. We have women and men in the autoimmune community who are bodybuilders. We have people who are still in sports, professional sports. We have musicians. We have people who are doing really amazing things. Not to say that we all have to do that. The point is, if someone feels completely guided and led to do something, regardless of what the world is saying, it can still be done. Those are the rules, the BS rules of life and how it's supposed to be. So this is one of my favorite books. The next step I wanted to talk about is the protective bubble. So this comes from a few different principles of visualization. The way I like to visualize the protective bubble is to envision myself being guided and protected from negativity. Okay, so I believe in my autoimmune mindful wellness course. If some of you have purchased that or accessed the course, protective bubble I talk about in terms of protecting ourselves from harmful thoughts, harmful influences, and harmful patterns. Basically, if you're a Christian, it's like the armor of God, right? So it's basically you're praying, you're asking for guidance in the spiritual world, in another dimension. You're asking for guidance and protection so that you are covered in case of negative influences, negative patterns, negative thoughts. So I talk about that, envisioning a protective bubble for yourself before you head out the door in the morning or before you take a difficult phone call, go to the doctor, right? So you're in your home in the morning, you're envisioning your ideal year. You're envisioning these resolutions, goals for yourself, thinking about how you're going to enjoy the day, your core desired feelings even, you're focusing on these things. And then you envision that you are guided and protected from any messages out there trying to tell you that it's not possible or tell you that some opposite thing is going on, that you're protected. So that's another step that I would suggest, that I recommend in this process of life design, just protecting yourself. The most successful people out there envision their situation often before it's even happened. This is actually the next step, sticking to the vision. Envisioning yourself in that space already of success. And one great way to do that is to seal it in, protect yourself, and have that protective bubble for yourself. Sticking to the vision, imagining already. So there are people out there who talk about, like, again, with the core desired feelings, where you believe in the principles of the law of attraction or of manifestation. A lot of it involves gratitude, visualization, and giving thanks in advance. Also imagining things already happening, sticking to the vision, being very clear of what's already to come, even writing a letter to yourself, writing a letter to your future self, or imagining future self already. Write it all down. Write down exactly. I have a list here. I wrote this 2 years ago, and it is going on. I have my ideal schedule here on the wall. It involves meditation, writing, yoga. Anyways, it's happening. It is happening. This is my ideal schedule, and it happens like every day of the week. Sticking to that vision, writing it down, visualizing it, that protective bubble, saying no to things that don't make sense, that are like counteractive or just like the total opposite of what you're envisioning. We don't have time for that. Focus in on our purpose, what we want out of this life, how we want to serve other people, how we're going to help other people, how we're going to shine our light in the world, in the universe. So let's focus on that, sticking to the vision. And then finally, the final step here that I want to recommend is getting support. Finding a community of support, finding a coach, finding a psychologist, finding a therapist, finding a spiritual mentor who can believe and see that person that you are becoming, sharing in that vision with you, affirming that vision with you. What I love is when I can see and believe in the greatness of somebody, even though maybe right now they're not there, I can see it. I can see the potential in somebody and believing in it. It's a beautiful thing. Agreeing with somebody on their vision for themselves, agreeing that it's possible, seeing it with them, seeing the vision with them, an amazing thing. To summarize, we've talked about life design in this episode of the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. Life design including some steps here. We've got 5 steps that I talk about here. Saying no to the rules. These are the BS rules of the world that people have told us are impossible, but are not true. The second one was placing a protective bubble over yourself in the morning, placing a shield of protection, armor of God over yourself before you head out the door and become susceptible to other people's stuff. Protecting yourself, protecting the vision, sticking to the vision, being clear on the vision. For example, core desired feelings, envisioning that feeling of what it would be like to already be there. Writing notes, envisioning yourself already in that situation. Writing thank you notes, having gratitude, seeing that vision, taking the steps to get there little by little. Episode 42, we talked about taking those small steps toward the vision. So we're continuing to do that. So now we're fully protected. We've got our bubble, we've got our vision, we've got our gratitude, we've got our feelings. We said no to what people told us was impossible. And then we get support. Getting support is really important. Finding people who can share in the vision with you. And if you know of anyone who can share in the vision with you, join the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. That's what we're here for. Autoimmune limitless living, or chronic disease, limitlessly sticking to our vision and our purpose. So join us on Facebook at the Facebook group Sisterhood of Limitless Living if you need support. Find more information about me, the podcast, the community at aprilmorenophd.com. And I wish you a wonderful 2020 and a wonderful decade ahead. It's going to be amazing because we make it so. Take care. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Sisterhood of Limitless Living podcast. I hope that this podcast episode has reached you at a time with information that is valuable and helpful to you along the journey of autoimmune living or chronic disease living, chronic illness, guidance, wellness, information, support is why we're here. And so if you liked our episode, feel free to give us a rating on iTunes. A review is always appreciated. And for more information about Dr. April Moreno and the podcast, you can find us on aprilmorenophd.com/podcast.